as we see more and more people are starting to join. But in the meantime, if you want to drop in the chat where you're tuning in from, I think we have people in this room all the way from Vancouver to Toronto, across Canada. And we finally have some nice weather over here on the West Coast. As you can see in some of our backgrounds.
Super excited here, Noah, to kind of go through some product stuff with you. I think this is the first time we're doing a big product webinar.
Yeah, it's exciting. So many things happen in 2025. So, and what we have planned for 2026 is even more exciting. So excited to showcase to everybody what the product team has been hard at work at. Just before we do jump in, I think we have some people still joining, but this is being recorded. So if there's any pieces that people miss out on, they will be able to go back and take a look at any point in time, because everyone will receive a copy of the recording afterwards. But just some, housekeeping items. As I mentioned, this will be recorded. We have a great panel of speakers here today. Everyone from the customer side to help us bridge the gap into, what the details of the technology are, all the way to how we put it into action and why it's important to us, to the founder, one of our founders, and the product guy himself, who knows all of the nitty gritty details, and that we'll be able to dig in and actually showcase some of the product today. We want this to be an interactive session as well. So we have moderators that are also going to help on the side. So if you have any questions along the way of what you see, we will try to get to them along the way as best we can. But we will also look at spending some time at the end to answer any other questions that come in as well. We're going to try to keep this to, 30, 45 minutes, but there is a lot of cool things to show. But we'll try not to keep you too long. And other than that, I would love to pass it over to the rest of the panel here to do a bit of introductions. So, Skay, why don't we start with you?
Great, thanks, Noah. Name's Skay Dial. I'm one of the founders here at Guusto, and I work primarily with our kind of product engineering teams to kind of build out products that resonate with customers. So yeah, I'll maybe pass it over to Kwesi, who kind of works a lot with our customers.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kwesi Thomas, and I do work with a lot of our customers, primarily on their program, their design, and sort of the effectiveness of their program. My background is in HR, so I've led total rewards or compensation or HR along the way in my career for about 25 years now. Worked at companies like BlackBerry and Shopify and Nortel, not in that order. Nortel was first because they were the oldest along the way. And so really have seen recognition from both the Guusto's lens in terms of being the provider of recognition software, but also from the customer seat, having run and lived in recognition myself for a number of years. And so happy to talk to you about, what we're seeing in the actual recognition landscape. And I'll pass it to Cam.
Hey folks, my name's Cam. I'm a product manager here at Guusto, and I've been involved in a lot of the development, design, and product work involved in the things we're going to be showing today.
Amazing. So we do have the dream team here to talk everything product and use cases. Again, this is one of our first product webinars, and really being able to speak with the customers, analysts, everyone here today to really dig into the latest and greatest of Guusto. So to kick things off, Skay, I'm going to start with you and to cover the themes of what we're building here, why we're building them, and why is it important?
Okay, thanks, Noah. Yeah, I mean, over the last year, we really focused on kind of like making recognition easier, more impactful, And we focused on kind of like 3 themes. And so the first one was really about kind of providing a great recipient experience. And so, offering more flexible redemption options in the form of swag being added, kind of integrated right into the platform, as well as more ways to actually deliver recognition to frontline workers. And so we help a lot of customers across a number of verticals like manufacturing, healthcare, retail, where they don't always have emails for kind of everybody in the workforce. And so how do we actually get the recognition out to the frontline workers? So we've got some exciting new integrations that we've built with tool Exonify. They do kind of frontline communication as well as learning management. And then manager delivery would be kind of routing rewards to managers so that they can kind of deliver things in person to frontline folks. So that's kind of like the first theme. The second theme is around kind of like empowering managers with better insights, better tools, so that they can, become more consistent with their own recognition, but also drive consistent recognition within their teams. And so Cam's got some really exciting stuff to kind of show you there, what we've done with kind of the manager insight section, more analytics, and lots more kind of like coming to that section kind of this year. And then the last bucket is really about kind of like making programs more simple and scalable for admins. So the folks that are kind of running these programs. And so in there, we've got approvals being kind of having the ability to kind of route approvals to managers so that it's not all on kind of the admins to do all the approving. And then the big project, it is a lot of kind of behind the scenes work, was kind of workspace access. And I got to hand it off to kind of Cam here for really kind of spearheading this one, but it allows us to really make programs scalable where they can kind of start very small, still get everybody into the workspace, but you don't have to create accounts for all those people on day one. And so there's not, a huge amount of communication that's required in the program to get started. But there's a lot more powerful kind of reporting and whatnot. We can get into kind of some of that as Cam kind of walks through workspace access. So yeah, those are kind of the main kind of big 3 themes, kind of better recipient experience, better manager experience, better admin experience. So maybe we can kind of dive into one at a time here.
Yeah, amazing. Why don't we start with the top of the list there, providing more flexibility around redemption? I know this is something we've heard customers talk a lot about, and it's been in the works. So yeah, let's talk about the redemption experience and how we're helping get recognition to frontline.
Well, maybe I'll pass it to Kwesi here, because I know, one of our big clients that was really kind of driving the swag program for us, a lot of the requests. Maybe you can talk, you've done recognition, like a ton of different recognition programs. Talk to us a little bit about kind of like, building swag into the recognition, the overall recognition program, where that fits, why it's important, and, what customers might be excited about.
Yeah, we've had, funny enough, we had, over the sort of evolution of recognition, there was this really big push into, initially it was all merchandise. And then we switched off a shift to a large, partly of digital, and then some gift cards. And now we're seeing this sort of like addition or addition back of branded merchandise, so company branded merchandise, especially those companies that have sort of the frontline demographic, where there's a lot of still long-standing employees or people who are very, I'm not to say that people are not long-standing, aren't proud of where they work, but where they still want to wear and show up and be like, I wear the hoodie and the sweater and the t-shirt, etc. And so, as we work more and more with frontline companies, we're seeing a lot of demand for employees to still have that swag component where they can proudly wear their company and showcase their company. And so integrating and putting that back into the platform was sort of a customer demand. I think we've had a number of people ask for that, and that creates a lot of other branches in terms of what else you can do in the recognition space once you've got that in there, around milestones or onboarding, or if you've got uniforms and other things that get attached to that journey of an employee. But really, it's come out of, I think, a shift in people being very excited to wear the brand that they represent.
And I think about kind of a lot of the requests that we've had. They do center around kind of those two kind of buckets, like onboarding. Hey, welcome to the firm. You got through kind of like that training program. Like, here's your hoodie, or whatever other sort of kind of swag companies are doing that might be more relevant to their brand. And then those milestones, right? And we're hearing about like some really creative programs where you get a different colored kind of jacket for your 5-year, your 10-year, your 15-year. So lots of cool ideas there. We can, maybe you can kind of bring it up now, bring it up on the screen. We had an integration with a swag provider previously, but it was a little bit clunky, right? Like you had to kind of like go in, redeem for the swag provider's gift card, go to their site, redeem within their catalog, and there was some additional fees for kind of working with their platform. And so we wanted to kind of like get rid of all of that, streamline it, bring it all into Guusto, and make it kind of a seamless experience. So why don't you take it away there, Cam?
Yeah. So anyone who's familiar with our product, you'll know this is like the gift redemption screen. If you're new, no worries. I'll kind of talk you through it here. The redemption experience hasn't changed in a super meaningful way outside of the addition of some really, really exciting stuff we're doing with swag. So if you're coming in to redeem a gift, pretty similar process. We still have gift cards. That's sort of our bread and butter. But what we've worked on in the last quarter is integrating with new vendors so that we can actually bring in company swag. What you're seeing here is just a really, really small sort of contained example of what we're able to do with swag. I think the possibilities are a little bit endless when it comes to like how much we can do with swag now that we've got these integrations stood up. So we can customize colors, sizes, logos. You can do patterns with your logos. So again, this is just a small sample of what we're able to do. Once you've seen something that's kind of piqued your interest as a redeemer, maybe you want a hoodie, you'd choose that. And then we've got a full sort of breakdown of what comes with that option. So we've got details about like how it's made. You've got all the sizing options. If you've configured like a bunch of different variants in terms of colors, those are also going to show up here. And again, like this is a small contained example. So we just put the Dunder Mifflin logo on the hoodie, but there's a lot you can do here, which is super exciting. And I think it unlocks some like pretty fun stuff with like how you design your program. To Skate's point, you could do a different hoodie for each milestone, or I don't know if you had like a safety training award and you wanted a dedicated hoodie for everyone who's completed that sort of training. That's all stuff that we can facilitate now. And it's hyper specific to each organization, which I think is really awesome. From there, it's pretty similar to any other kind of like checkout process where you're picking a color scheme and then you're entering in some shipping details, and then it's shipped. There's no additional fees. You just basically wait for the package to arrive from that point. Yeah, did I miss anything, Skay, Quasi?
No, that's great. I mean, we got a lot to kind of like get through in terms of kind of various demos here. So if folks have questions along the way about kind of any of the stuff that we are demoing, by all means, kind of put those in the chat, and happy to kind of dive in. But yeah, really excited about kind of this rolling out, and we've obviously have a few customers that have been kind of requesting this for a while and pushing for it. So we're just in beta testing with a lot of them, but this will be kind of available kind of as we towards the end of this quarter.
That's exciting. Why don't we move into the second category? I think, running these types of programs, analytics is always something that comes up, understanding the performance of our programs, and something that Guusto is continually wanting to improve and build out and innovate on. So why don't we dig into empowering managers with insights and the tools around their recognition within their teams? I know we talked a little bit about the manager insights and analytics, so I'm excited to dig into this one.
Before we go there, Noah, I'd love to kind of stay just with that recipient experience and talk to you a little bit about, because we talked about kind of flexible redemption options there, adding swag. but I'd love to show folks kind of what we're doing to actually deliver recognition to the front line.
Okay.
And so,
I was just getting excited.
Because well, Cam, maybe bring it up on the screen, and we can talk a little bit about Exonify and the integration there. This will apply to kind of customers that have a use case for kind of Exonify's tool as well. So if you're using Exonify for frontline communication or learning management, then there might be an interest to kind of integrate it with Guusto. So we can touch briefly on that. I don't think there's a lot to kind of like really demo here, but like I think getting into like the manager delivery would be really cool. So Cam, why don't you show us a little bit about kind of or talk to us a little bit how the Exonify integration works.
Yeah, I won't spend too long on it just because it's I can't demo it all the way through without pulling up Exonify. But essentially, what we've done with Exonify is kind of two things. On our end, we're going to be able to deliver rewards and recognition directly through Exonify. So if you're using Exonify as like a frontline communications tool, which a lot of our sort of shared customers are doing, we're going to be able to route awards through Exonify so that if that's your primary sort of contact point with your employees, we're able to reach them with rewards and recognition through Exonify, which I think is really exciting. The other component that we've worked with Exonify on is actually building in sort of like Guusto as an incentives engine for learning and development that happens inside of Exonify. So if you're using Exonify for learning, we're actually able to intake that data. So when someone accrues points and redeems for a prize inside of Exonify, our system is able to sort of intake that information and then turn that into a reward that with the other component reaches that recipient in kind of like a closed loop, really seamless way, which is pretty exciting. So yeah, is there anything else you want me to touch on there?
No, I think, I don't know how many folks on the line kind of use Exonify, but worth just kind of, highlighting that one. If you are kind of using the Exonify system, like this is really cool. Yeah. Kwesi, maybe you got some thoughts on that.
I want to kind of give you a 30-second story about this one. This came from a customer that had, a lot of our frontline customers we talk to, a lot of times they don't have employee, all the employee data you would if you're running like a desk first office. So you may not have email, you may be communicating through other means, especially if you're frontline, a lot of frontline employees. As for them, they were doing the vast majority of their communication to the people out in the field who are out at a mine or out at a facility. They're doing it through Exonify. And so we kind of, with that customer, built this integration to help deliver it to the frontline workers, because that's always a challenge in frontline. And so I'm not saying the possibilities are endless here, but if you've got a large group and you're communicating through another tool, it's definitely worth a conversation with our sales team to understand how we can deliver to your frontline, because there are a number of ways, whether it's email, personal email, text, through print, through a mobile app, through a QR code, through Exonify in this example. But it bears a conversation, because a lot of times if you're running a large frontline organization, communicating to those people who are out on a manufacturing floor or driving a delivery truck or a pickup van or plumbing or an engineer or whatever else, if they're not at a desk, delivering recognition is always a challenge, and what data we have is also a challenge. I think this Exonify integration is a good example of us working with a frontline group to really deliver recognition to where their people are.
Yeah. And I mean, you can see some of the other integrations on the screen there, but UKG Talk would be another kind of frontline communication tool. So if you're using that one, definitely kind of reach out. We can show you how we've integrated into that frontline tool as well. Cam, maybe let's talk or show, because this will be kind of a little bit more exciting in terms of like a demo, but we can actually show kind of manager delivery. So what's the use case on this one?
Yeah, I'd say the problem we were trying to solve with manager delivery, again, kind of ties back to like the nature of the frontline workforce, and that like oftentimes we were finding with our customers there weren't like a complete set of contact details. And the result of that is having a pretty large, important portion of your workforce being a little bit disconnected from rewards and recognition programs. And so our one of our solutions to that problem is to route rewards to managers when we have a recipient who doesn't have contact details available for us to do sort of like a more automated delivery, like an email or a text message. And so what you're seeing here is inside of our Manager Insights section. And these are all rewards that have been routed to this user as a result of there not being contact details for those recipients. And so now as a leader or a manager in this case, I'm able to choose a delivery method that makes the most sense for that recipient. So if maybe I have their phone number and I want to copy that gift link and text it over to them directly, I can do that. If I've got a printer on hand in like a break room or something, I can print it out and hand it off to them. Or if they're nearby, you can pull up a QR code and have them come up to the screen, scan it, and then they're coming away with that gift the same way that anyone else would. So I really love this feature because it connects a group of employees that I think historically have had problems being connected to the larger workforce. And it kind of ties them in a really nice way. And it lets us deliver gifts to that group of employees. So I'm really excited about this one.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Okay, before we move on to analytics, hopefully I teased that one well. Anything else we want to add on that, Skay, or are we good to move to the analytics piece?
Yeah, all good here. I think unless Kwesi's got any, I really like the customer stories, but I think we initially kind of ruled out this functionality for automated awards, and so you think about those kind of like milestones, maybe some onboarding, and we were seeing a lot of adoption with that kind of workflow, and so we were hearing from customers that like, hey, it'd be great if we could actually offer this with any of the rewards that are being sent out. And so that was kind of the backstory on kind of how this kind of functionality came to be.
Okay, wonderful. Well, yes, let's jump into Manager Insights and Analytics then.
All right. So Manager Insights, Analytics, just thinking about that like manager persona, especially in frontline environments, like they're trying to do their job, they're reporting up to their bosses who may be in the field as well. And then they're also kind of running a frontline team. And so they're getting pulled in a million different directions. How do we make things like really simple for them? How do we give them some insights into, how they're personally doing with recognition themselves, give them some prompts, some nudges, but then also let's give them some visibility into how their teams are doing. And so that they can, kind of really drive that culture of recognition. So maybe with that, Cam, you can kind of take us through some examples.
Yeah, there's a couple key changes we've made in the last year on the Manager Insights. First thing, we've added in charts. Historically, we just had a couple widgets on this section, and we're really trying to build out the analytics for that manager persona. And part of that was adding in this chart. So we're showing you here how your team is doing sort of in aggregate with respect to sending recognition. So you're really easy. It's really easy to see as a leader now, sort of like the count of recognition that's going out from your team and how that's trending over time. So you can see, whether it's net positive, net negative over the year, and just really easy to understand like how recognition is being used on your team as a leader. A couple cool things you can do here. One, you can check the participation. So if you're keen to see like what percentage of your team is actually utilizing rewards and recognition, you can switch over to this view. And the other thing we've added in the last year is the ability to compare and contrast individual direct reports against one another. So here you're seeing like an aggregate, just totals each month. But if you wanted to see how Andy was doing against Angela, to see who your sort of like culture stars are on your team versus some of those folks that might need a little bit more motivation or a bit of a nudge to get going with rewards and recognition, we've made that super easy. The other thing we've done here is just added in some more like robust sort of per employee metrics so that you as a leader can see the exact amounts that have been given or received by your team. So you can see one, again, who are your like standout leaders and who are the folks that might need a bit of a nudge. And also you can get a sense of like who's maybe under recognized on your team by kind of viewing like the count of shout outs or gifts that they've received, so you can take action on that as a leader as well. Last thing I'd point to here, we've added in our shout out draw. This is sort of like a customer favorite. Historically, that was a feature that was kind of exclusive to the admin side of the application. So only like the HR leader was able to make draws. And we've extended that to every leader now. So if you want to incentivize, sending rewards and recognition with like a random draw, that's now functionality that's available to managers as well directly from this Manager Insights tab. And I think Skay mentioned this briefly, but there's a lot more coming to Manager Insights in the coming year. This is all stuff that's live today, but we're going to be building out a lot of functionality that make these analytics and insight sections really, really powerful for a lot more leaders. So yeah, look out for more updates to Manager Insights.
Not going to spill all the beans, Cam.
I don't know how much time we have. I could talk about this probably for the rest of the meeting if I had the airtime.
Yeah, I mean, Kwesi, maybe you could provide a little bit of context on like why we're focusing so much kind of resources and development on this kind of manager persona in order to kind of drive adoption in programs.
Yeah, I mean, this is born out of sort of two areas. One, the sort of theory and building the culture, and the other just hearing from customers on it. And so if I speak to sort of those two, the theory here is building recognition. It's a habit you have to build and form. I liken it to building a muscle, and you have got to repeat that. And doing that in a small group is hard. Doing that at scale in an organization, as anybody who's like run a larger organization program, getting the muscle to repeat it is really hard. And so giving the managers the ability, and the managers and their directors and VPs the ability to see their activity, hold their teams accountable, set goals for themselves, see what they're doing, and drill down into their activity is crucial in terms of letting of that culture building aspect. Got to see the activity in order to do more of it. And we've got, we hear from a number of our clients often that the leaders, the VP of an area or the director of an area wants to understand what's happening in their area because they're leading people. And so they're trying to teach and lead their people on activity like recognition, but they need to see that activity. And so the tools that we're building here are a direct response to that need to continue to build this muscle or this culture of recognition. That doesn't happen because you gave them a tool. It happens because they repeatedly use it and find value in it and can make it. And I think what's clear here, they can see the insights to it as well. And so, we've seen our most successful programs be those where the manager participation is strong, or the leader, manager and leader participation. And we're really focused on making sure we can support them in that need. And some of the things that Cam has not spilled the beans on, I think are really interesting and exciting in this area, because it will further help that muscle or that, that skill. Managers aren't born, they're taught and learned. And so this is a thing that we have to continue to teach and learn.
Mm-hmm. And you kind of touched on it there and like teased it a little bit, but like the current kind of Manager Insights really does a good job now of kind of providing insight into kind of your direct reports. But for those managers, leaders that are maybe a little bit higher up in the organization, giving them views into their hierarchy in terms of kind of like all of the indirect reports that kind of report up to them. And so you might have, kind of district leaders that are overseeing kind of a bunch of stores, right? And so allowing them to kind of see how the participation or kind of adoption is going kind of across a number of the different units that they're kind of overseeing. And so that's all coming here kind of very soon. And I think a lot of this is being driven, a lot of the reporting in Guusto was built into kind of the administrative section. But what we kept hearing from clients was like, hey, we need to get these reports, we need to get these insights out to the people in the field, so that we as administrators, don't have to kind of be bothering people and kind of sending them all the reports and whatnot. So really excited to kind of continue building out this manager insight section that really is kind of going towards being fully kind of analytics that are visible for folks throughout the organization, but kind of role based, so that they can only really see the hierarchy that they're responsible for.
Yeah, we definitely. I mean, I don't know that they completely are reflective here, but we definitely, when looking at this, took note of some of the world class stuff that was happening to some of our clients who were doing this themselves. Like they were like their admins or HR teams or whoever already doing this, and then sending it to the VP of this and the director of that or the head of this, and etc. And so this is just bringing that a little bit more on demand and available to them without having the admins doing that sort of analysis. And so some of the data that's here even is reflective of what those minds and those organizations are already doing. So really, this is like really excited because it's not just out of theory. It's also out of like what people were actually doing in their organizations and finding value with their leaders or their recognition committees or whoever else.
And we had, we built some functionality in the reporting section, custom reports. I don't know if you want to flip to that screen really quick, Cam. And so we were seeing a lot of customers kind of like put together these custom reports, and you can route them out and send them to various managers and whatnot. So as we saw more and more of that happening, it was an indication to kind of continue investing in just getting those manager insights directly into the hands of the managers. But yeah, if you have a need for custom reports, it wasn't really something we were going to cover today, but there's lots of cool things that you can do with custom reports, and you can schedule them to kind of go out to leaders at a certain cadence as needed. So, but maybe I'll throw it back to you, Noah. I know we're on a tight timeline to get through everything today.
There's just a lot of exciting things to share. Before we do move on into like the last theme, I do have to give a testament, like a shout out to the product team, really, for the way that I've seen you guys build the product in the last month since I've been with Guusto. I see it's a tendency for product to build within a silo, but I will say at Guusto, like Kwesi was mentioning, stories like we really do take the feedback and what we see customers doing to solve the problems and build that within the product. So it's always cool to see how it comes to life. And the adoption is so quick because it is something that in real time people are trying to solve problems for. So just a shout out to you guys. And last but definitely not least, in the themes that we're talking about today, making programs more simple and scalable for admins. Skay, I'm going to kick it right back to you and let us know why is this important? What are we doing with it? And let's see a bit about what we've put into action.
Yeah, happy to dive into that. And, I noticed Cam had the dashboard up here too. So, just rounding out the last piece there, those manager insights, manager nudges, we now have a widget right on the dashboard called People to Recognize. And so, this was something that we'd built into manager insights and thought we'd bring it right out onto the dashboard. And so it's really highlighting to managers like, hey, it's been a minute since you recognized Noah or Kwesi or Cam. And so we're seeing that really help kind of managers, adopt the program a little bit more. But to the kind of program admins now, and how we kind of make things a little bit more simple, more scalable for them, so that they can launch their programs and not have to kind of bake it all on day one. But start with a smaller project and get approval for that, get some traction, take that back to your leadership teams, show them, how this is actually kind of driving results in the organization. Maybe if you're piloting within kind of a certain area of the organization, is it improving customer satisfaction or sales, kind of in that area, or employee retention, employee engagement surveys. And so really thinking about, how do we kind of make things scalable? The first thing, we were kind of in the manager section there, and we can touch on it really quickly, Cam, is getting approvals out, off of kind of the admin desk and giving those to managers. So that'll be an easy one. And then and then I think we'll dive into kind of workspace access and how we've been able to kind of, divide up kind of where certain folks are kind of being put in the platform and the benefits to that. So over to you, Cam. Let's start with approvals.
Yeah, I think the main sort of value we're driving here in terms of like simplifying like running a recognition program is that with the manager approval feature, which is what we've got pulled up on screen here, we're able to distribute some of the admin sort of workload that is typically required if you need an approval process. So we're able to actually take all of those approvals instead of having them all kind of sit with a program administrator. We're able to distribute them and have them sit with the employee's manager. So that way, as an admin, you're not having to go in and approve dozens of pieces of recognition at a time. You can trust that to the manager now, which I think is really exciting. Some of the logic for like when a piece of recognition shows up for approval can be customized, which is really nice too. So if you wanted to set a value threshold, so any piece of recognition that exceeds $10 goes for approval, but anything under it does not. That's something that we can configure. But yeah, aside from that, like once you're a manager, you'll get a notification saying so-and-so received recognition that needs approval. You'd come in and you'd be able to sort of evaluate the message, whether it's aligning with the reasons or the company values. And then as a leader, you can make that judgment call around whether to approve that gift or shout out if it's non-monetary, or whether it's going to be declined. If it's getting declined, you can sort of type out a reason for why it's getting declined, and that's going to get pushed back to the original sender so that they know why it might have been declined. Yeah, that's approvals.
All right, pretty straightforward here.
Yep.
Why don't we jump into kind of workspace access?
Yeah. Do you want me to run with it, or do you have a little bit of a setup?
I mean, maybe Kwesi, frame this up for us, right? Like we historically had some functionality in the system for preloaded recipients, right? And so if you had some folks that you didn't want to kind of like load into your workspace or onto your team, you could kind of load them as preloaded recipients, but it was very limited in terms of like the functionality there, and a lot of the reporting wasn't kind of clean. And so you've worked with a few customers that have kind of started to leverage this and really drove this.
Yeah, I mean this one's it's a bit behind the scenes, but let's talk about how it plays out on the sort of the front end, right? If you're running a company that has a large number of employees who are just receiving recognition, right, and they aren't necessarily participating in any other way other than being recipients to their anniversary, birthday, shout out, a spot award for accomplishing something, but they're not participating. And I'll be very frank with you, sometimes that also comes with a workforce that is not, that doesn't want to engage in too much in the technology itself, but they need to still receive. Sometimes what we found for some of the clients out there is that they want them to not necessarily participate in the workspace and do the dashboards and do all the other pieces, but they still want them to receive the gift, be in the right branding and the right messaging from the company. And so there's a bit of a depend on how you design your program. And there are good reasons to have them fully in the workspace, and there are good reasons to not, right? And so this allowed one of our clients to really bring a lot of their people into the program from a back-end data, information, employee information, hierarchies, approvals, all that good stuff in the system, and run a lot of the rules that Cam are probably going to talk about next, without having to necessarily pull them in as a full seat that needs to be participating and logging and seeing some of the other functionality that might have been distracting or not appropriate for how they want to run their program. I know that sounds very technical, but essentially if you just wanted to send them a gift card or a thank you or a congratulations and you just wanted to receive it, redeem it, and spend it, that was a way to bucket it that way versus having them in there liking, commenting, all the other functions that go along with a more differently designed recognition program. I'm sorry if that was complicated. It's not that complicated.
Well, I think, I mean, you touched on the one kind of piece that I think will resonate with a lot of customers, which is pricing and scalability, right? And so like you don't want to run a big full peer-to-peer program and pay for every employee to have a seat in the platform. And so this is a way for us to kind of like segment those users who are just, primarily on the front line. And then often we'll see customers take a really scalable approach, right, to launching their recognition programs. We often crawl, walk, run, right? And so maybe it's a milestone program to start. Maybe it's, maybe a spot award program. They're giving a handful of managers budgets to reward people, but they don't want to pay for full seats to have everybody in there. And so this is a way to kind of, segment the users and you don't have to create accounts for all those frontline folks. They can do it as they're claiming gifts, or they can, we've actually got some functionality now to check out as a guest. Maybe we'll highlight that one in the next kind of product webinar, Noah. But Cam, why don't you kind of take us through it, and we'll kind of.
Cam goes, can I quickly talk about the other use case, which is adjacent to employee recognition that we're seeing a lot of, which is we're seeing a lot of people who are in our platform also use it just to send out reward. Sometimes that's a referral, that's an insurance broker, that's a safety award. There's lots of reasons to send out a reward or an incentive or a thank you or a gift card that aren't necessarily wanting to participate in that larger ecosystem. And we see this kind of natural evolution of a company that has a recognition program, and then somebody in safety or somebody in marketing or somebody else says, hey, can I also do this? And you don't want them participating in your company program, but you want them eligible. It's another reason why this works really well for those people who may be an associate but not an employee, or a contracting group that's not in your core employee base. There's so many different org structures now these days that this does allow you to reward people who are in your ecosystem but not in your employee base necessarily as well.
Cool. Okay. Cam, take it away.
Yeah. Thanks, Kwesi and Skay. I'd say, like the components of this that I'd want to highlight most, and I'm going to try and do this in plain language so it's really clear, are just like how flexible we can be with like designing rewards and recognition programs because of the workspace access feature. I think Guusto is a leader in the rewards and recognition space, in large part because of how easy we make it to be sort of like a scalable approach to rolling out a program. And so what you're looking at here is like how our program admins are able to configure who specifically from their sort of like larger employee base is actually going to receive access to the workspace, which is essentially like the account that we're in right now. You might be wondering, like, why would I want to give someone access, or why wouldn't I want to give them access? I think Kwesi and Skay, you both already touched on a couple examples. Let's say you wanted to run like a top-down recognition program where only your managers are, holding budgets for rewards, and everyone else is sort of like a casual recipient, which we do see a little bit of in terms of how our customers are using the tool. You'd be able to come in here as a program administrator. You choose allow workspace access, and then you can set up some conditions on who actually is going to receive that like workspace seat. So in this case, I said anyone with the position that is general manager is going to be able to access this workspace. And everyone else, we're still going to retain all of that data so that we can make them eligible as a recipient. But they're not going to have they're not going to have a user or an account created for them. So we're really limiting the amount of like change management that needs to go into sort of starting a rewards and recognition program. And that's just one example. Like I think the other thing I'd want to highlight is that like with this feature, you can design a program and sort of like access conditions however you want. So that was one example where like you wanted to do a top-down program, but it's really up to you as an admin to decide, who's getting a full seat and who's getting a more casual sort of like a recipient seat. And that's all up to our program admins to decide. Obviously, we're there to support, but you can really design your program however you like with workspace access, which I think is really, really exciting.
To build on that, Cam, I mean, there's the decision, between providing workspace access or not. And so, maybe for some of those frontline folks, you want to keep it really simple. They don't need access. They just need to be in the system so that when managers are going to kind of send recognition, they can see, oh yeah, Quasi, that's who I want to send it to. And, and all that data is kind of recorded. There are use cases we've seen from some customers that still do want to provide workspace access to those folks. And so, hey, we've got access for all of them, but they don't want to give them the ability to send recognition, right? And so we've got that option as well, where, if the frontline worker has the ability to kind of log in, but they can see on the dashboard all the recognition that's happening. So your program's very visible across the organization, but you're not necessarily giving those folks the ability, a budget to send recognition or the ability to send shout outs. That's still not, then you're still not paying for that full seat. So I think the theme here is just, we work with all sorts of customers and they all have these different program designs. And so how do we give them the tools to kind of design it the way that, they envision it, or maybe they're coming from a different program and, they want to kind of maintain the structure that they had. And so this really gives us like a powerful tool to say, hey, like, however you want to design it, like there's all the options here for you now. And we can really help to kind of keep your cost for the use of the platform to a minimum, so that, most of your budget is actually going towards the rewards that make it to employees.
Yes, I think you touched on a really important part. We see so many designs and so many reasons for why companies design their program. And we often talk about program as a singular thing, like their program. And most often, a lot of these companies are running programs. And so that program might be, very simple for the whole organization, for milestones. But then you get into like their actual plant recognition or their employee of the month or their top-down programs. And they get very different, especially in the frontline world, where the corporate team may run something that looks very different than the manufacturing plant, look very different than the distribution center. And so we have these ways of kind of making the programs work for you, because you're rarely running one program at an enterprise level anyway, or a medium large company.
Yeah. And so like the ability to just create multiple workspaces and structure them differently. So, the right people can see the right workspaces and make those selections when setting rewards. And so I think the theme there is, kind of just try to make it incredibly simple for admins to structure things the way they want it, flexible, and hopefully kind of meeting customers, where they are with their recognition journey.
Amazing. Well, we did only manage to go about 4 minutes over what we had allotted for, which, with how much we actually tried to pack in here today, I'm quite impressed with us. So well done. We do have a couple questions that are coming in, and I'll give people a few extra minutes if they want to drop any questions in the chat. But before we do get to that, just want to remind everybody that this is recorded, so everyone will get a copy of the recording in your email afterwards. I do think, again, team, we did a good job of teasing some features and also what's to come. So just a reminder for everybody here that we will be doing these product webinars quarterly to keep everybody up to date on the latest and greatest of everything Guusto and what we're working on. And just a quick note for anyone that does want to get started. We have a few different options. As Quasi mentioned, there's a lot of different ways that people are running programs. So if you do have some of those maybe more complex questions, or you have multiple programs, do reach out to our sales team, and you can talk to people that are well of knowledge, like Quasi and Skay and Cam. And if you want to get into the product and get started right away, we do have the option to go to our website and on the pricing page, start a 30-day trial right away. Get in the product, and along the way, you can talk to our support team, other experts to help you get your programs up and running and test some things, start dipping your toes in the water. But a few different great options. Again, what we really like to embrace is flexibility and ease of use. So we try to make all the different options available for you. So let's jump into a couple questions. One on the swag front. Somebody asked on the branding. So we did see in the product that you can brand your swag, but what does the delivery of that swag look like? Does it come in a generic packaging, or what can somebody expect?
We do have some options there. Generally speaking, the packaging is a little bit generic. Through our current sort of set of vendors, there are some options for like branded packaging as well. So you can think of like an onboarding kit. Those can be branded, but generally speaking, like if you're just going through the redemption experience, grabbing a hoodie, that's going to come in a just like a standard shipping container or shipping package.
Right. I know when I was involved in some of the testing on the delivery, again, flexible options that work for whatever you're looking for. But I got a Guusto hoodie that had Guusto branding on the package. And then inside, it did say that it was from Guusto, the company. So all of that, to some extent, right, gets customized to your brand. Awesome. And then the other one is around the analytics. What's the easiest way for managers to access this information? Is it something they have to go into the dashboard? Are there automated reports?
Yeah, there's maybe a couple ways you could tackle that, I'd say. The easiest way in my mind is probably going to the dashboard. Like if you're aware of the analytics offering there, it is pretty simple. Like we've got a couple really powerful analytics components there. One tab to the right, we've also got like a team history report, which is essentially just the data that's rolling up into those analytics. So if you want to take that away and do your own analysis, that's available. As a program admin, there's a couple tools that we offer to automate that process or to engage managers kind of where they are. So we have the custom reports feature, which lets you as an admin kind of target specific leaders and curate reports on their behalf, and those get sent to their email. The other thing we can do is set up just like a weekly cadence for like summary reports. And those can go to managers, and they kind of indicate something similar to what we have in Manager Insights, just some like holistic, like here's what's happened in the last week type information. And those are also available, and those can be turned on specifically for managers. And then the last one would be like just like a budget notification. That's something else we offer. So if your goal is budget usage and sort of maximizing the amount of recognition that's going out, we do have like a budget notification as well that can go out.
Yeah.
So you have
I
options.
know. Yeah, I was gonna say, I know on my side as a manager that getting a lot of those notifications and reports automated to my email helped me a lot. And as we talk about, it's a behavior piece too, right? Of like getting into the habit of things. It's definitely something that helps keep me honest and keep me on top of the recognition that I'm sending on a regular basis. So awesome. Thanks, Cam. All right. Well, I think we are close to the top of the hour. That covers most of the questions that came in. Just want to thank everybody again today for tuning in and joining us for our kickoff of 2026 product webinar. If you have any other questions, again, we will be sending out a follow-up, the recording, and feel free to reach out to us. We're always happy to talk about everything rewards and recognition and helping you get your program up and running and or help you with any improvements that you're looking to make. So again, thanks everyone for joining us today, and have a good rest of your week.
Thanks, Noah.
Everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Everyone.